Hi Year 12, this is a quick revision of social change theories. I'm going to go through all four theories and give you some background about what each theory is, its features, and some of its criticisms. The conflict theory is a macro-level theory developed by Karl Marx and Max Weber. It states that society will eventually reach a point where its own organisation will create a barrier to further economic growth, and at that point, conflict will bring about revolutionary transformation. So we're talking about revolutionary changes here. The features of the conflict theory really are that it assumes that society is in competition with each other for the limited resources. Therefore, different social classes must compete for those resources like food, housing, employment, education, leisure time. However, control of the society rests with a small number of powerful people, which Marx called the bourgeoisie, and it's only when their interests change that change occurs for the rest of society. This bourgeoisie class maintains control over the working class and general society through socialization, education, and ideology. In addition to this, conflict theory assumes that when the struggle for power reaches a crisis point, the working class will overthrow the ruling class, so the bourgeoisie will be overthrown. For Marx, conflict in society is the primary mean for change, and these conflicts appear consistently throughout history and during times of social revolution. We have applied this theory specifically to Afghanistan, so you should have the most detail around conflict theory applying to Afghanistan. Critics of conflict theory point to the fact that it downplays the inherent unity in society and takes a predominantly negative view of society as one filled with conflicts, tension, and coercion. It also fails to address the impact of technological change and only focuses on change and not social stability. Indeed, while societies might be in a constant state of change, these are largely incremental and not revolutionary. Finally, conflict theory does not acknowledge that social change is possible without violence, and often attributes positive aspects of society, like global aid programs, to processes designed to control the masses. So it's got quite a cynical view on society as a whole, but that's an overarching summary of what conflict theory is. Our second theory is evolutionary theory. It's another macro-level theory, and it's based on the assumption that all human societies continually develop from simple to complex, and that all change is progress. It was developed by a guy called Herbert Spencer, and he's the main theorist associated with this theory. Evolutionary theorists believe that society moves in specific linear directions, continually progressing to higher and higher levels, and from simple to more complex social structures. As a result, it is assumed that the contemporary cultural attitudes and behaviours are more advanced than those of earlier societies. Examples of societies going through evolutionary change include moving from hunter and gathering societies, which lived simple nomadic lives, to agricultural societies, which lived in subsistence farming and food was more secure, through to industrial societies with complex capitalist mass production capabilities, to post-industrial, what we're in now, with the rising importance of information technology and the increase in service sector. The evolutionary theory has been described as a theory of social stratification. It observes that change is often multilinear rather than unilinear and can occur in several ways and does not inevitably lead in the same direction. The main criticisms of evolutionary theory point to the fact that it assumes all societies will follow the same path and only describes social change rather than explaining why or how it occurs. Additionally, it's ethnocentric, as it labels all primitive societies as inferior to post-industrial societies and assumes that all change is progressing towards a more Western model. So any societies that don't adhere to Western views and values aren't considered to be developed and moving through the right direction. Our third theory is the Functionalist Theory, another macro-level theory developed by French sociologist Émile Durkheim. He believed that society was a complex system whose parts worked together to promote solidarity and stability. Indeed, the main focus of functionalism is on social structures that shape society and their functions. The main features of functionalism assume that there is a general agreement about what is good for society and that people are cooperative in working towards a shared interest. In doing so, societies develop from simple to more complex and interdependent. Interdependence is a key element of the functionalist theory. As society becomes more complex, new differentiated institutions must be integrated into society to take the place of less complex structures. Functionalism also believes that it's important to address society as a whole. its social processes have intended and unintended consequences, and that social theory must emphasize what maintains society, not what changes it. Criticism of functionalism point to the fact that the theory only attempts to account for slow institutional change and cannot explain rapid upheaval and social unrest. Furthermore, it emphasizes stability rather than explaining social change and assumes all change is progress and does not acknowledge the role of individuals in achieving this social change. The final theory is the Interactionist Theory. This is a micro-level theory developed by George Mead. It focuses on relationships amongst individuals within a society. Mead argued that people's selves are social products and that individuals create their own realities and perspectives of the world based on patterns of interactions, and people attach meaning to interactions, and this is how they make sense of the world. The features of the Interactionist theory are that it attempts to analyse the meaning of everyday life through participant observation, and from these observations develop an understanding of the underlying forms of human interaction. The theory presumes that humans are not solitary and they're always looking to be connected to each other, and that the experiences that they have will help to develop their own meaning of the world. Very much focused on the idea of developing ourselves through the judgment of others, and therefore we have to be independent and interact with other people in order to gain a better understanding of who we are. Criticisms of the Interactionist theory note that it neglects the importance of social forces, history, and institutions on individual interactions. Additionally, it has a narrow focus on the individual that cannot explain changes to society at the macro level, and that is not one theory, but a framework for many theories of human interaction. So we can't really use Interactionist theory on its own to explain a whole lot of social changes. It often interacts with other macro level changes, like conflict theory, where conflict theory might be changing society as a whole, but Interactionist theory is explaining changes within individuals in that whole, so they can kind of exist side by side. Okay, that was a really quick overview of the 4 theories of social change. On this Schoolbox Due Work post, I've also uploaded a summary of the theories from the Society and Culture Teachers Association. It includes some tables that breaks down each theory into features, criticisms, strengths, etc. And I really encourage you to use that to supplement the notes that you get from the class notes we did last year, but also the notes that you got from this video. Hopefully this has all made sense, and if you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to send me an email.